What's going on, guys? Got my WPL out, my C14 that I converted with the C24 bed. Got some adapters here that I ordered off eBay I'm going to go over, and I've got a few other upgrades I just wanted to show. I got this off of AliExpress, it's a toe chain obviously. Got some aluminum shocks. I'm going to show how I'm going to mount these a little bit different to increase my flex. And this is a stock tire, and I was going to see about mounting these on. I was trying to set that 5mm in on this back side, but I don't think there's enough meat in there plastic wise on this rim to do it. So I think I'm going to try to modify a stock rim to fit this smaller tire, but that's not going to go on this truck probably, because this truck's a little bit lifted up, so it would probably look a little bit weird to have a tiny tire on there. But we're going to look it over and see what it looks like. Maybe put these big tires on, see if this suspension ends up lifting it up. But I don't think it will. I'm going to try to set it up so it stays in kind of like a droop position, where when it goes over stuff it can actually move, so it gives it a little bit more flex. Don't mind a little bit of camber on this blue truck back here. It's under repair right now. But that truck, I just wanted to show, it has some adapters that I made myself in there. And these are made with WPL rims that I glued some drift rotors on there, you can see. And I glued those on there with some JB Weld and made my own adapters. But in the Facebook group that I'm a part of, it's 1/16 WPL Owners Group on Facebook, I come across this guy on eBay who sells these 3D printed adapters. Has the 5mm in the back and 12mm on the outside. He even changed his design just a little bit. I just made a suggestion to him, and these work pretty well. I was able to bolt these wheels on right away with just a tiny bit of filing on this outside 12mm. It was just a little bit snug, maybe for just these wheels, but I was able to do a tiny bit of filing and get these wheels on there very easily. It did stance it out just a little bit. I would say maybe the tiniest little bit, maybe 1mm to 2mm wider, but these are also bigger tires, so you have to take that into account. And these were a steal. I think they were $3.50 and maybe $3 shipping, so totally like $6 for a set. I ordered 2 sets and it came out to like $9 because it was, all shipped in one package. And they also threw in this little scale battery. It looks like a little Optima battery, and he threw that in for free. So I'm going to try to put a link in the description for that guy. He hooked it up. Alright, I just wanted to show that wheel adapter before I pulled it off. There it is installed. Goes right over the existing 5mm. And it just extends it out just the tiniest little bit, not very much. Almost stock. And you're able to put whatever rim you want on there. That little tiny piece helps so much. If you don't like taking your RCs apart, don't buy a WPL. I know I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for saying stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I do like these trucks a lot. They're fun. They're a little bit intricate, a little bit small. But if you don't like taking your RCs apart, then I wouldn't buy this. Because, for one, it comes needing upgrades. A lot of videos that say a $35 trail truck. Yeah, it's not a trail truck at $35. It's just a truck. Yeah, it moves, and we'll go over some stuff, but it is not a rock crawling trail truck out of the box. Till you get some of that metal up under there, it is not a trail truck. If you're new to my channel, I just want to go over a few things that I've done to this. See, I put spacers in here. This is the only lift I've done to this. This truck has a little bit of space, and you can see the angle of the shock is actually, instead of straight, it's angled like this. That's because the axle is dropped just a hair lower than it's supposed to be. But that's okay. It gave me a little bit of lift. That's what I wanted. Just didn't rub the fender so much when he goes over some some spots where it's flexing and whatnot. Also, I put in the metal link kit from AliExpress, and I got the cheaper drive shaft set. I would go with the WPL set if you can. Find the one that has the narrow ends where it goes on to the what the grub screw is on both ends. You need to try to find the one that narrows down, because these tend to rub the motor. I have this set and I have a black set, and they both rub that motor, and it creates kind of a binding issue. And this has the 180 motor and a stock transmission. If you get the RTR, they have a 130 motor and a really crappy servo. This servo is with the kit. It's a 3-wire servo, and I have sunk this servo over and over and over again. It still works perfect. I wouldn't call it waterproof out of the box, but this one I would call mine waterproof. I would guarantee it in the water any day, because I've had it sunk, submerged several times, and it does fine every time. I was so busy talking, I took out the bumper screws instead of the hood screws. Got me a little bit distracted. One thing I also got here today, I had a battery go bad on me because an ESC shorted it out. So I picked up another one. This is a 1500 milliamp hour 35C 2-cell from Florian. Go ahead and pull that out. They all come with this strap, which I mean, I've got a few of them. They're a little bit extra now, but what the heck? I mean, it's nice. They're really nice to send that with the batteries every single time. And they're quality batteries. They last very well. I've got a 5200 milliamp hour Florian, and it does great. I like these because they fit just for this truck. And I mean, you could run any other truck you wanted to off of it, some small run times from a small vehicle. But for these WPLs, this thing fits in there very well. Well, apparently I didn't have a very good wire connection. It came off on both ends. Alright then. Well, I'm into the thick of it now. I've got a good amount of progress. I'm going to show you what I've got going here. The front suspension is actually installed. The rear suspension is just sitting there, just to give kind of an example of what it's going to look like. There's quite a bit of difference between that stock suspension. So there's the shock side by side. Not too much of a length difference, except you will note that the mount is here on the original one, not on the top like it is on these aftermarket ones. And that's the big difference on those, and that's why I went ahead and changed the mounting position. They have these brackets that you can buy that adapts them, but I also wanted to give it more flex, and that's part of why I'm going to give it that angle like that right there. And the difference of the suspension maneuverability wise, this is a little bit stiff because it's been getting water in here, and these keeps locking up and binding. But it takes a good amount of force, and they're not as soft as you would think. But when you lift it up, there's just no flexibility really. It's not very fluid in movement. Check this out now. It's a lot better, and it can come down, it can droop down. And that allows for a lot more movement. And it's actually a lot softer. Them springs are a lot softer than I thought they were going to be. I was kind of scared because everything you get for about this size is a little bit stronger than you really want it to be. this scale is just so small, everything is very lightweight. Alright, I just want to show the way I'm mounting these. I've got an M3 with a Phillips head, not preference on Phillips head, but got an M3. This is a 1/2 inch. It's a little bit short. I wish it was about 3/4 of an inch, but this is what I got right now. And I'm putting a nut on the inside just to hold it steady. Then I'm putting a small washer in there. I don't have the right size washer. This is all just temporary until I get my screws in. And then I'm sliding on the shock on that there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on the very end of the threads, and we'll tighten the nut down right on that. Not too tight. To keep that shock from rubbing on my forelink, you can see I got just a little bit of space in there. I used one of the ball joints from one of my previous shock installations. You can see it right there. Just as a spacer on the end of that, I believe that's an M2 screw that came with the kit that comes with from AliExpress, the 4-link kit. I noticed a little bit of clearance issues with this hub right here. When it turns, it catches just a little bit. I think a little tiny bit of filing, and that should be not an issue anymore. I took my motor out because I noticed that my casing is cracking right here. See if I can get it. I'm just going to fix that with a little bit of JB Weld across the top. I'm going to go ahead and set this rear suspension up. I'm going to put those spacers in there. Here I've got two different sizes, and I used the shorter one right here. That one worked pretty good. So there it is, that's my rolling chassis. Go ahead and show a little bit of the suspension flex. It's a little bit stiff right now. Need to put a little bit of oil on some of the ball joints, but it's lifting that tire up. But it will be a little bit better with some weight on it. And I had to go with these tires. I actually had to use the adapters that I bought, mainly because I was showing some pictures on the Facebook group I was discussing earlier, and somebody pointed out to me that I wouldn't be able to steer all the way lock to lock, and I was like, you're crazy, dude. He was right. I checked it out, and it actually, let me show, take that off, pay attention to what I'm doing. It looks great like that, but then when you go turn it the other way, I mean it's barely turned at all, and it's touching right there. So I started making up some brackets. I was going to reuse some of my monster truck brackets that I used for the suspension lift. I was going to use it as a bracket for those shocks on here, just make them straight up and down, but it really made it a lot stiffer in the front end. These shocks act completely different when they're on this angle. There's less stress as far as it doesn't compress as much with more movement. So there's less movement, less compression in the shock by being in this position. When it's straight up and down, it was a lot stiffer. And I really liked the way that it moved around with this setup. So contemplated it, was beginning to change the setup, and then I said, what the heck, let me try these wheel spacers or adapters, and it worked. I do not like this tread pattern, so don't beat up on me. I know these are rally tires, these are not meant for this, but I like the wheels, the rims themselves. The tires, I'll maybe upgrade this. I mean, now I can do 12mm anything I want. And it is sitting up a little bit high. You'll notice right now it's probably binding. Yeah, see, it's binding. But this is without weight. There's no weight. So you push it just a little bit. There she goes. I should have done this in the beginning of the build, but I was just, trying to get it together, trying to make a little video for it, trying to show off the truck itself, trying to make a little review and get a feel for it. I wasn't going to go too crazy. I knew it needed to be done. I just didn't feel like doing it at the time because I already had the truck together pretty much. I just, when I got these new drive shafts, I went to install them and I noticed that there's no flat spots because this takes the plastic shafts. So the plastic shafts don't need flat spots. So I have to create your own flat spots. Also, you might have noticed my little booger job right here. That is JB Weld, where my motor case split from, I guess, the motor in there torquing and whatnot. I guess it went ahead and cracked that transmission casing. It's very thin right here, but that JB Weld is stronger than that motor casing ever was. So it'll be a lot stronger like that. It's not going to make any clearance difference. It's just going to be able to use the same motor case, and I'm not going to have to buy a new one. But at the end of the day, you can probably buy that motor. I'm pretty sure you buy that case for like $4. So it's really, really cheap, easy to replace, and this is pretty weak as it is with this little 180 motor back here. And if I'm going to buy another motor, it's not going to be this. I'm not going to continue with this setup. I'm going to go ahead with the monster truck setup. It's got the metal transmission gears with the plastic housing. They also have one available with the metal housing, and I know you're probably wondering what's going on with that. Do not say anything about my soldering. I am not good at soldering, but it works. And you're probably wondering, what is that for? Well, if you can guess in the comments, tell me what you think I put 4 wires on there for. I know you're wondering what is going on with this right here. Go ahead and hit me up in the comments and guess. I want you to guess to see what I'm doing. It's for a future build. I'm going to show you guys later down the road what I got planned for this. Here comes the fun part. I have to install this all pretty much as one unit because see those little solder connections? This is all wired all together because I have tail lights and I should have put connectors in. I was being lazy. I have a Dremel on order and I have not received it yet, and I really could have used it. I could not get this bed to lay down flat, and I was looking up under there, and just right outside, this is where the frame rail lays in this groove here. Just on the outside where the screws for the mount bracket for the shocks, the new shock mount, is instead of being up in this fender well, it's now here. And it's right where this thing comes down, and if you're going to mount it like I did, you're going to have to, right beside that frame rail opening on both sides, trim a little opening. It looks all boogered up because I had to penetrate with my soldering iron, and then I used a razor blade to clean it up, and that's what I ended up with. Alright, so I've got it back to a functional truck. I am having a bit of drive shaft binding issues, and that's why I was saying it's a little bit higher than I wanted it to be. But with this shock setup, it is very soft in the way that it is when it's sitting level. So I'm considering adding maybe a little bit of weight, and I'm hoping once everything is all together, maybe it will squat it down enough that it won't be binding. But every once in a while it has a little bit of binding on the drive shafts, but that's so far the only issue. And it has been doing really good, and I'm going to finish putting it back together and buttoning up everything and making it look real tidy. I'm sure some are wondering if this actually worked or actually helped the suspension, or wondering what it actually did. So I'm going to go ahead and show a clear example right here. That right there, that drop, does not happen on the stock suspension. Now, static, somewhere in there. So that right there is about where it would be riding on average. And I might have to do a little bit of trimming, but it should do okay. We're going to see. This is a little bit of an undesired effect, but the suspension is actually very soft. It's a lot softer than I thought it would be, and I think it just needs time to loosen up, and as it's moving down the trail or down the road, it should flex on its own. It shouldn't do anything, you know, weird like that, like stay up. But it's pretty soft because of the angle of the shocks. There's very little movement that it takes to compress them. They're not going all the way compressed. And it is a little bit stiff. So you can see it's wanting to stick around in some of them spots when it's angled. But I'm happy with it. It's doing pretty good. We need to loosen it up just a little bit, and we're going to see how she drives. Well, there she is. I just wanted to do a short run to show I did not build a shelf queen. I put those lights in myself, drilled extra holes for the front fog lights. The front lights are tinted a little bit too dark. You can't really see the front lights, so but I like the way it looks like that. I also did those tail lights. And don't forget to put in the comments. I got those extra wires up in there. Tell me what you think I'm gonna build with that. But I'm really happy with the build. Can't wait to take it out on a real trail run. I guess my next video will probably be a trail run with this. So if you want to see a running video with this thing, please subscribe. It helps a lot. Hit me up in the comments. Give me a like. Alright everybody, till next time. Thanks for watching.